Okay, welcome to Making Music. Today we're going to talk about how to choose an acoustic guitar. And the ones that we just played are some very high-end instruments. Jack was playing a Martin. Which one was that?
That would be the D41 Special.
D41 Special.
Pre-war design.
Okay, and I was playing a Gibson SJ200, which is also a very high-end guitar. We kind of like to do that, but what we're here today to talk about is not necessarily what a guitar costs, but how you choose one, what it sounds like, and how you go about picking one out, whether it be a gift for someone, whether you buy it for yourself, or whether you just find one that a friend gives you or loans you or whatever. Let's talk about history just for a second. First of all, let's dispel some myths, okay? Because that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that the guitar was invented by a left-handed person so that your dexterity was on your left hand up here on the fingerboard. Now, I am a left-handed person, and I'm not a great guitar player, but I do play with my left hand up on the fingerboard, which is considered a right-hand position. A left-hand position would be considered this way, which would put my right hand on the fingerboard, my left hand down here, and I can't play the guitar that way. Neither can you. So, regardless of whether you're left-handed, if you haven't already started out playing guitar, we always recommend that you play it in what's considered the normal right-handed position. For those of you that are left-handed, it gives you an advantage. It was actually invented by a left-handed man. Maybe a woman, I'm not sure. It was called a lute or something. By the way, went back to the Baroque musical period, 1600s to 1780, give or take, right in there, that period. And the guitar started out very small, probably a lot like that one right behind you, Jack. That's size. And size of a guitar is another thing that we'd like to talk about. Now, that is probably between a half and a three-quarter size guitar. And I'd like to dispel another myth. You'll notice that has nylon strings. Oftentimes, people say that you have to use a nylon string guitar to start out, that it's easier on little fingers, and that it's easier to play. Actually, it's not. The nylon string guitar has a wider neck than a steel string guitar, and typically is harder on little hands and little fingers. Here's a full-size nylon string guitar. Now, if you'll look at the difference in necks, we can shoot those two. You see the width here between these two necks, and it's an amazing thing to see what the difference is between the playability between these, the width of the neck across here and across here. It's much easier for little hands to play a narrower neck and therefore a steel string guitar. Now, yes, there are some finger problems as far as little calluses and that sort of thing go, but we always have to develop calluses on the tips of our fingers. It's not a bad thing. You ladies don't have a problem. It's just tiny little calluses. It's not like you're going to be looking like a, bricklayer or something. Well, you play too much, Jack. So basically, you don't have to have a nylon string guitar unless you want to play classical music. Okay, now play the same thing on a steel string guitar, please. We'll show you the difference here and how they sound. Okay, a steel string guitar like Jack is playing is basically used for country, folk, rock, blues,
jazz,
everything but classical. Doesn't matter, that it happens to be a steel string guitar. It oftentimes it's called a folk guitar, but that's not all that we do with it. So typically, if I were to choose for anyone that was a normal adult-sized human being, I would take a full-size, what we call a dreadnought guitar. Can we take a look at some of the... let's look at that pink one. Let's look at... Yeah, now that... pink is in this year, by the way. If you haven't been to the malls lately, let me tell you, pink is in. And not to be outdone, we've got a pink guitar. And this is a starter guitar. It comes in a little package with a gig bag and some accessories and that sort of thing. And I think they sell for a couple $100. It's not an expensive guitar, but it sounds reasonably good. It will tune reasonably well. And comes in a variety of colors. You can get it in pink, blue, black, natural, that sort of thing. And
One thing I'd like to point out about this particular instrument, because I want to go to the next one up, this one has what they call a laminated top or non-solid top. And you hear a lot of people talking about solid top versus laminate, or if they're really trying to put it down, they'll call it plywood.
Right.
And there is a difference between the two. But let me grab the solid top instrument from the same luthier, because it's also important when you're comparing woods, and we'll talk about this more, to compare the same luthier, because if you get an excellent craftsman with the crappiest wood, you can get a great guitar. And if you take the best Brazilian rosewood with somebody like myself building it, you get nothing. But you hear how much fuller this guitar is with the solid top. Okay. So, apples to apples.
Yeah, it's
solid versus laminate, you'll get a better sounding guitar from the same manufacturer.
From the manufacturer. Another thing I'd like to point out is that wood is like snowflakes, really. There are no two pieces alike. So, even though you have the same exact model from a high-end manufacturer like Fender or Gibson or Martin or Taylor, whomever, the same guitar, same model, same everything, even the same species, i.e. maple or rosewood, is not going to sound the same. You have to play them. You have to actually play the guitars. And
that's a good thing, actually.
It is a good thing, because that's half the fun. I mean, it's like test driving cars. You want to drive about 200 of them before you spend your $50,000 today. So with guitars, it's not that big a thing. Now, guitars are gaining popularity in our schools today. There's a couple of reasons for that, several reasons, actually. One of them is that a guitar is very inexpensive relative to other instruments. It costs much less than a flute or a saxophone or a trumpet or a clarinet. I mean,
when I started playing music, my first choice was a drum set. My parents looked at what a starter drum set would go, and they go, "You're playing a ukulele."
Well, that's it. Yeah, ukuleles are very inexpensive, and by the way, coming back, becoming very popular right now. So, a guitar actually can be adapted to any style of music, and it's also a soloist instrument as well as a combo instrument. It can be played in an ensemble or a band. And very easily taken on the road, and the singer-songwriter tool of choice. If you're going to sit down and you're going to write a tune and pick it up and stay up till midnight or whatever, then a guitar is usually the choice, although some people use keyboards. Now, let's talk about some other kinds of guitars here. In acoustic guitars, there's the round back. This is kind of interesting. This is made by Ovation. And this back material started out way back in the Vietnam War era when Kaman Aerospace made these guitars. Bill Kaman played with Glenn Miller. And he was using this when helicopter blades were just brand new, sort of a composite material. And when they switched to this composite, he thought, well, we can use this for the guitar body, and we can use all that spruce that we have left over for the guitar necks. And so they took the old helicopter blades, cut them down into necks, and the Ovation was born. But this guitar is kind of a cool guitar, too. It has its own kind of a tone. It can be very delicate, or it can be, pretty harsh.
The reason we should talk a little bit about the physics of the guitar, what the back and sides of the guitar do, is the sound is generated from the top, which is why people like a solid piece, because it resonates better compared to a laminate top. Mm-hmm. But the back and sides are supposed to be rigid, so the sound goes into the guitar and is directed out the sound hole. So what the Kaman was doing with their fiberglass or their composite backs was to get a very rigid sound surface, and that allowed the guitars to really project well in performance. And so they were very popular with performing artists when they first came out.
Absolutely. And that does sound good. Now, this guitar is made by Taylor. Very beautiful instrument. See, the wood is not only aesthetic, but it has a lot to do with the tonal qualities as well. Now, this looks like a maple back inside